Okay, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I was really nervous for this podcast because my guest today is one of the chairmen for New York State for Howard Hanna. Merle Whitehead was been in real estate since he was 18 years old. He has 50 years of experience in the industry, which is like crazy. That's unmatched. And throughout his career, Merle's worn a lot of different hats, but there's a few things that always remain true. He's always been transparent, honest, kind, very soft spoken, and a great leader. I mean, the guy's a busy man, and he didn't have to take an hour to talk to me and shoot the shit with me for an hour. It was a complete honor. And I really feel like this podcast displays why Merle has been such an industry leader and why he's such a great example for others to kind of strive to. So with that being said, I hope you enjoy this episode with my new friend, Merle Whitehead.
Good. My name is Merle Whitehead. I'm the chairman of the board for New York State for Howard Hanna Real Estate Services, and I'm also the chairman of First Priority Mortgage.
Nice. That's cool. And how long have you been doing real estate? I know the answer to this, but I want everybody else to know because I was blown away when you told me this.
Yeah, this is my 50th year in the real estate business.
Wow. That's
so
crazy.
I got in the real estate business when I was 18 and I'm 69. So you do the math. It's 50 years.
Wow. That's what made you want to get into it when you were 18?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I started selling men's clothing, and
Wow.
I was on commission. And so I sort of liked the commission deal. You know, back then I'd sell a pair of pants for $20 and I'd get a 5% commission. I'd make $1. So I said, boy, this commission makes all the sense in the world, but I got to sell something bigger than a pair of pants. So at 18, the biggest thing I could think of was real estate. So I got in the real estate business.
Wow. Did you have anybody at the time that you could talk to about getting into real estate, or just kind of like jumped right into it?
Just sort of jumped right into it. The logic was there. You know, I reached out to a couple real estate companies and they wanted to interview me. So, you know, fortunately, the interview went well and I had a couple choices and got in the business and have never looked back.
Wow, that's cool. And what was the first brokerage you started at?
It was actually a company called R.E. Larigo in West Seneca, New York here. And as I said, started there when I was 18 and took right off. And, you know, being so young, I was making what was very good money at the time. And, you know, made enough in my first 90 days to go out shortly thereafter and buy my first house.
Wow.
At 18. And, you know, sold that for a nice profit 11 months later.
So, you were in the house for 11 months?
Well, you know, it had a little deferred maintenance. So we bought it, we fixed it up, and we wanted to sell it for a profit. So again, we made, back there, what was a really nice profit, $12,000, and bought a bigger house. So my wife and I have had 21 houses together.
Wow. Oh my God. So moving, you do not shy away from moving, do you?
Well, it's kind of interesting. We've had 21 moves and we've never used movers. So as we mature, that might become a better option. But for years, it was just us carrying furniture. And, you know, again, we're just kind of of the opinion we're more careful than anyone else is. So who's going to take better care of our stuff than us?
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure. That's got to be an interesting path from salesman to now the director of New York State. Like that's a crazy path from there to there. What were like the initial steps after you sold? Did you go into like managing an office?
Well, what I did was I started as an agent and realized good success as an agent. And then I was working for a company, Potter Real Estate. And it was kind of interesting. The group of salespeople were frustrated with their manager at the time. They didn't feel he was working hard enough. They didn't think he was leading properly. So the owner of the company at the time said, well, I'm happy to let this gentleman go, but what are we going to do for a manager? And all the other agents said, well, make Merle the manager. So he said, okay, that's easy enough to do. So they made me the manager. And then I went from the office. In fact, the good news is I started managing the office in 77.
Wow.
Within 7 or 8 years, it was the largest, most successful office in Western New York.
Wow.
And so then I had an opportunity to become a partner. And Tom Dorn and I became partners in Potter Real Estate. And then in 1996, at the time, we were the number 3 company, and we merged with the number 2 company. And I became the chairman of the board and had 3 other partners. But when we built the transaction, we built it that each one of them would have a specific exit strategy. So, I bought them out over a number of years.
Right.
And soon I didn't have any partner excuses, and I was there by myself. And at the time I had 17 offices in Western New York. And then I grew it to 65 offices and grew the mortgage company. And then, of course, by 2016, I sold everything to Howard Hanna.
Right.
And then
Haven't looked back since.
Haven't looked back since.
Yeah, right. When you went from sales to management, how did your scope change? Like, obviously, you're going more sale driven, and then you become a manager. What do you change your focus to?
It's interesting. I reflect on comments that agents have made over the years. And, they always said, he's firm, but he's fair. One thing I always tried to do is be a role model. So if somebody left a can of pop sitting on the front window of the office, I'd go out and I'd get the can of pop. If somebody threw a sandwich in the parking lot, I'd go in with a broom and I'd clean up the sandwich.
Yeah.
Even to this day, I park around the corner. I park down the street in front of the town hall. And so many people in town go, oh, there's Merle, he's at the office. But I leave the parking space in the office for the sales associates. So I walk a few hundred yards down the street. But, those are the types of things when you treat people with respect. As a leader, I believed if we needed our office cleaned, no one was more important than the person cleaning the office. If we needed a check, no one was more important than the controller. If the computers were down, no one was more important with the IT. So I think whenever you're building a team, if you treat everybody with mutual respect and mutual appreciation for the role they play, I think people really take a ticket. The other thing that I tried to do is not be one of these leaders that says, say as I say, not as I do. I tried to make sure I was a doer. And then if I'm doing it, I expect you to do it. There's a great example on Facebook. I really didn't want to get on Facebook, but I believed all of our agents needed to be on Facebook. So then I better be on Facebook if they're on Facebook. And so some of the things that you embrace, not because you really feel they're going to enhance your life, but you just feel that's where society's going and you need to be a role model in those areas. Someday I'll be just like you with technology.
Yeah, right. That's the thing is, I come from a retail background. I was assistant manager for it's called Runnings. It's almost like a farm and tractor store. And a lot of times throughout I was in retail when I was 17 and made the shift into real estate when I was probably, I think it was like 27, about that. Throughout that time, I've seen all different kinds of managers. Some managers that were like you that would, sweep the floors, go change the toilet paper roll in the bathroom. And then I conversely saw the managers on the other side of the coin too, like you were saying. And it's interesting to me because I don't think the managers that are the ones that say, do as I say, not as I do, I think that kind of sets the overall tone, whether it was in a store or in an office space. It really seemed like you had a better environment when the store manager was out there sweeping the parking lot or picking weeds out of the gutters or something, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. It kind of sets the tone. It sets like you really care about the store, you care about the brokerage, you care about the office space, it really, I think, shows people that you kind of care, right?
Well, it's interesting. I work in the Orchard Park office, And we have a wonderful manager, Curtis Newrider. He's a rock star, manages the office. But nothing is more frustrating to him. He may come in the back door and I come in the front door. The next thing you know, he hears me out in front shoveling. He comes running out, hey, I just came in the back door. I didn't look at the walk yet. And so it's a real pain in his butt that I work in this building every day.
Yeah, definitely. There was at Runnings, there's a store that has the district manager stationed in the store. So
Right.
that store manager is notoriously like always ratchet with stress because he's like, oh my God, if he comes in and he sees that we haven't faced this aisle, like it's very puts the pressure on a little bit,
Yeah, in his early years, he used to always say, when the hell's he going to go home? Because I'm waiting for him to go home so I can go home. He soon learned that I wasn't real bright and he had a more balanced life.
That's funny. And what do you think the top 3 best qualities that a leader or a manager could have? I feel like the one, I guess you were just talking about, would you call that more like empathy? You taking the time to kind of sweep the driveway, to shovel the front. Empathy, maybe? I don't know. I'm trying to find a good word for it.
Well, I think it's a situation where I'm really into goal planning. And so if we're objective about our goals, we know how we have to behave every day. And so, I think there's a lot of people, their goals are more like fantasies than goals because they don't know what they need to do every day to reach them. So, I would say instead of empathy, it's really just focus on the way we want our office to look, the way we want to treat one another. I had a vice president that worked with me for a decade, and he said, Merle, I've been here 10 years. I've never heard you raise your voice. And it just isn't productive to raise your voice.
Right.
I think people thought I was firm, and there's certainly many people that without raising my voice, I dehired them. And,
didn't fire them, you dehired them. I like that.
Yeah, and I think those are the types of things that people are watching. They're watching your actions. And the other thing that I always tried to do, I always tried to hold same standards for everybody. It can't be a situation where Joe's not a big producer, so this is what I expect Joe to do. Mary sells $10 million worth of real estate, so I don't expect her to come to the meetings. I don't expect her to go to tour. No, I expect everybody to come to the meetings. I expect everybody to go on tour. And that's just how we should treat one another. So I think it's the consistency of message and personal responsibility and accountability.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think those are probably the biggest. It's funny because the more I talk to like different managers in different offices, like Chris, Shauna, or even Kathy out of my office, or Mark, like they have that common thread where it's always like treat others how you would want to be treated, and everybody's fair across the board. And I think that makes for a better conversation and a better environment for people to feel comfortable like coming up to you to talk about this problem that's happening or something going on in their life.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Shauna. Had the privilege to work with Shauna, but I think it's an interesting story how we got together. And she actually called me at home one night, and I believe it was a Friday or Saturday night. And it was probably about 7:30 at night on a Friday or Saturday night. And I had golf clothes on, and I was going to go to the driving range and hit golf balls. So she told me she was unhappy with her company, and there were a couple things that were going on in the management team. And so she had felt an urgency to get together. And so I kind of looked at her schedule. I looked at my schedule, and I didn't have anything for the next couple of days. I said, well, you know what? It's probably if I change clothes now and I get in my car and I drove to, I don't remember, I think I met her halfway at Rochester. She was in Syracuse. I was in Buffalo.
Wow.
And I said, we could meet at 9:30 tonight if we met at a restaurant. So, jumped in the car, drove there. Wow. And we probably stayed out till 11:30, quarter to 12.
Yeah.
Talking about her goals.
Right.
And, that story went through the company that I called them on a Friday or Saturday night he jumped in the car that night, sort of left his wife a handwritten note. I've gone to Rochester to meet a woman for dinner.
Yeah.
And but again, I think it's that was important to her. There was a time that I was available. It just happened to be that evening.
Yeah.
And why say no? I know you're calling me on short notice. I'm busy for the next few days. Maybe the soonest I could meet with you is Thursday. So again, it's just that consistency, kind of focus on your purpose. If your goal is to attract talented people, you've got a talented person on the call, you've got a suspect on the phone that's a talented person. You drop what you're doing and go see if that suspect is a fit. And again, she's been a wonderful fit and been with the company for years now.
Yeah, she's great. Shauna's good people right there. She's
Yep.
she's like one of my favorite people I've worked with across the retail board. I've always said that I try to take in retail when I interviewed for that ASM job, I try to take like the best qualities out of all the different managers I worked with. And I definitely take a good chunk of not really management qualities because I'm not there, but personality traits from Shauna, just how like open she is about stuff, open-minded, very, very genuine, I think.
I'd actually known her mom and dad. Her dad was the president of the Syracuse Realtors Association, I think, when I joined Syracuse.
Right.
And so I knew her parents. And so she came from a wonderful family. The family had a wonderful reputation. And I presumed the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. And of course, all the Thielens came to work for us then. And that was a time well spent on that Friday or Saturday night.
Yeah, time well spent. I mean, that just goes to show like how genuine you are. I mean, that night you just hopped in your car, like, oh, I can be out there in an hour. I'll meet you there. Like that's awesome.
Well, and again, if you want to grow your business, it's all about attracting people. So if you got a chance to attract someone, you do it on their schedule, not your schedule.
Yeah, right.
That gets in your way. I mean, there's certainly some functions that I've missed or came in late or left early, because you're focused on your business, but it certainly paid off well for both me personally and my family.
Is that kind of what you focus on in your position now, is how to recruit more agents, or is that more of like a manager, like an office manager kind of thing?
It's interesting. My role now is, I'm credible by circumstance. RealtyUSA, when we sold it, was the 6th largest independent in the country. And, the Hannas have just been doing a great job of growing their company. So, it's one, when you have someone, and I would say, where am I at in my career? I'm starting to wind down. I'm not out the door, but I still own a great deal of real estate. So I'm involved in managing that real estate. And of course, the Hannas are tenants in many of my buildings. So, you're in the Liverpool building. So we had to get the Liverpool building painted a year or two. And we got to get the driveway sealed and, make sure we get those furnaces served. So there's plenty of things on my dance card that take my time, but they all help the good of the company.
Right. It's all about, seems like when you kind of move up the ladder, it's like you're focused in sales, just yourself, right? How you can kind of explode your business and drive more sales. You go to the office manager position, it seems to be you're thinking a little bit more open-minded about what you are covering. Like now you're thinking about how to recruit agents, how to train them, how to retain them. And then you move up that ladder and it goes more like company-wide, right? It seems to be like the same goal. You want to get agents attracted to work for Howard Hanna.
Yeah, one of the things, fortunately, in my career, late in my career, I was watching where the industry was headed. And, I kind of got to be a trends guy. And one year, probably 5 years ago now, I was the liaison between all the MLSs in the country and the National Association of Realtors.
That must have been awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. And, at the time, I was actually chairman of the Broker Portal Project, which was a project with HomeSnap, where we were, creating an entity to compete against the Zillows and the Realtor.coms and some of the bigger portals.
Right.
And so needless to say, I wanted to leverage my relationship with MLSs. So because we took the broker portal product to market by making it part of the MLS. So, you pay part of your dues in Syracuse, $1 a month, $12 a year to participate in the broker public portal. And so it's been a great progression. As I stepped down as chairman of the board of that, Dan Riley from Howard Hanna, who's on their leadership team, stepped in as the chairman of the board for the joint venture between HomeSnap and the broker public portal. So, I just got to do some things so one of my tasks still is talking with people on our leadership team and just sharing perspectives. Who's naughty, who's nice, what technology should we embrace, who do we see are disruptors, who do we see as threats, who can we create collaborative business relationships, who are we better not to create collaborative business relationships. So, every time the Hannas or, the company now does a strategic business relationship with someone, it really has to be beneficial to the company, beneficial to our agents. And again, we're really motivated to open up long-term relationships.
Right. And I mean, they just announced that they added another brokerage too, right?
They have just been on fire.
Knocking them out.
They really are. And I think it's a real compliment to them. If you look at what's out there as far as buyers in the market, there's some publicly traded companies, but Howard Hanna is the largest family-owned private real estate company in America. And I think there are a lot of people like myself that say, you know what, I want to be able to pick up the phone and call Hottie Hanna. I want to be able to pick up the phone, call Helen Hanna.
Yeah.
And they have exceeded my expectations. And, as I reflect on the whole transaction, it was the right decision at the right time with the right people.
Do you think that was what made it so enticing to sell RealtyUSA to Howard Hanna, was the fact that it was a family-owned business?
Well, I'll give you a little background.
Yeah.
I actually met with Warren Buffett in 2006, and Warren Buffett owns the Buffalo News. And of course, he reads 3 newspapers a day, and the Buffalo News at the time was one of them. And of course, we were always featured as one of the largest real estate companies in the country. So, and he owns, the number 1 or 2 real estate companies and Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. So I met with him in 2006, and the market was just booming in 2006.
Yeah.
And then what happened after that, we got into a recession in 07 and 08, and I watched the value of my company probably drop from X to 1/10 of X.
Yeah, right.
From being profitable to losing money and, just grinding out through a recession. And I sort of said to myself then, when this market comes back and we get strong again and we start selling we were selling about 24,000, 25,000 houses a year.
Wow.
When I got back to 25,000 houses a year, it's time to sell. Took me a decade to 2016 to get back there. And then it was the right time to reach out and call the Hannas and see if we couldn't put something together. And again, they knew the reputation of our company. They knew the quality of the people that we had. And I think I might have called them on a Wednesday and met them Thursday.
Right. Wow. So you reached out to them first, huh?
Yeah, I really did. Well, I knew they were coming to town.
Yeah.
And interesting enough, I bumped into an architect, and he had mentioned he was doing some work for them, and they were going to open a bunch of new offices, and it just made sense. I can either bang heads with them as a competitor, or maybe there's something we can do together. And so I reached out to them, and that was early January, and we announced the transaction in June.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, and that's and for me, that's why I came to Howard Hanna. That was the same reason, just because I like the idea of family owned, no stockholders, no corporate thing. I've worked for corporate things before, and it seems to be just you turn more into a number, and you're just kind of churning out these metrics. At least in retail, it was like less about how customers were leaving happy and more about get them to fill this survey out. And if they don't fill this survey out, then you guys could be losing hours or XYZ. But with family, it just seemed a little bit more realistic, more grounded in reality, Yeah. And I said when I was switching careers, I was like, I don't want to work for another corporate identity. I want to work for someone that's family owned, something that's I don't have to turn out random numbers to a corporate person. It's not just Cory Lawson, real estate agent 443211, you know?
Well, that's it. The other thing that the Hannas really positioned themselves well is they grew their business. There was Hottie, Helen, and Annie. Uh, Hottie and his two sisters, but you know the kids went to law school. They got their law degrees.
Nice.
So Helen's daughter Annie, she has her doctorate in insurance and has the insurance. Hottie's son Duffy, he's an attorney. He oversees the mortgage banking entity. Hobie's on the brokerage side, and he's really embraced technology. So he's looking at our technology products. So their family positioned themselves well for growth. And you really have to applaud that each one rolled up their sleeves and worked that hard to reach their goals.
Yeah. And they all have like their separate departments, and they all work together really well.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some spirited board meetings, but that's what a good family does. And again, everybody's passionate. And I think when you have a family as passionate as they are, and of course, the company was started by Howard Senior, Hottie's father, and he's still alive. He's 100 years old.
That's
so
awesome.
When Dad's still firing on all 8 cylinders at 100, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Right. I mean, man, it's such a cool story. A family starts the brokerage and has grown it to what it is today. I mean, how many states are we in now? It's crazy. We're in like half the East Coast.
Yeah. We're up to 10 or 11. And I won't quote a hard number because by that time today's over, it could be a different state.
Yeah, right. I know that's the crazy thing. That's what I like to. It's always nice to see. Oh, hey, we are now working with Alan Tate, or hey, now we're working with this brokerage. It's always cool to see that they're expanding.
Well, and I think there's another big compliment. Like Alan Tate's one of the finest companies in the country. RealtyUSA had a wonderful reputation. National had a rep. There are a lot of companies that buy companies that are under duress. But the companies that the Hannas bought were all companies that were thriving. And again, I think that's a compliment to them because all the sellers had lots of choices to just stay in business, keep doing what they're doing. I just decided that I would much rather be part of a strategic business relationship and play on a bigger team.
Yeah, right. It seems like you said, it's very much a compliment, because sometimes you hear the company acquisitions are usually a successful company buying out one that's poorly performing. And these always seem to be really great brokerages that have an outstanding reputation that just want to join Howard Hanna, which is that's awesome. What more could you ask for?
Yeah, I think typically in all the circumstance, we were all going towards versus away from. In other words, we weren't running away from failure. We were going towards success.
Right. And when you started as an agent, did you see this career path that you would end up to where you are today? Did you even fathom this was happening, or was it I'm just going to be an agent? Oh crap, now I'm a manager. Holy cow, this is cool. Oh crap, now I'm in this. It just kind of snowballed, or was this the plan?
No, it snowballed. I mean, as I said, in the 80s, I had a very successful office. So I think once you realize you can work with people and you can put systems in place and, manage the systems and motivate people, well, then you say, well, if I can do it once, I can do it twice. And of course, then we had the 17 offices here in Western New York. And, well, if we can do it in Buffalo, we can do it in Rochester. If we can do it in Rochester, we can do it in Syracuse. Yeah. We can do it in Albany. And that's the other thing. Some of the companies that I bought took me decades. When I bought Ambrose and Shoemaker, it took me 15 years and 4 owners.
Wow.
To buy that company. Yeah. And, same with RealtyUSA. I mean, Gallinger, it took me a long time to buy Gallinger and get the Syracuse presence. And then again, I think we probably, based on our success in other markets, energized it and, went out and bought some new buildings and invested in the marketplace and did some recruiting. And, we've got great momentum in your market right now.
Yeah, for sure. What made you want to target Gallinger and other groups? Was there something specific that made you want to acquire those properties?
Yeah, I think it was respect. John Gallinger was a perfect gentleman. And, so I became friends with him. Same, I bought RealtyUSA from Chris Schmid in Albany. So I became friends with Chris first.
Yeah.
And, Chris was kind enough to invite me to talk to his top agents. And I went and talked to his top agents. And then I went and talked to his managers. And the agents were complimentary. And then the managers were complimentary. And then he was more comfortable doing a transaction with me because he knew I had already opened up a trust relationship with the managers and the agents. So, a lot of these, the groundwork that you lay for an acquisition is, again, building a friendship and a trust relationship. And matter of fact, I did that, the last few years. I talked about mergers and acquisitions. And one of the first things I always said to the audience, don't call someone and say, I want to buy your company.
Yeah.
Because it really feels like you're condescending. So I always say, hey, I have a tremendous respect. Let's get together and see if there's any kind of strategic business relationship that would make sense. I said, maybe we can just buy supplies together. And you start in a non-threatening way. And then as you both trust one another, then you can say, well, wait a minute, I think there's maybe more we could do together, and put mergers and acquisitions on the board.
How did you come up with this plan? Is this something that you learned? Is there like a mentor that you learned how to do this from?
No, with me, it was more common sense. It's just, kind of, so many things in life are cause and effect. I'll give you an example. If you're eating cheeseburgers, chicken wings, and fries every day, and you're putting on weight, I just don't understand why. It's cause and effect.
Yeah.
And when you're growing your building business and you're treating people with the utmost respect, and you're passionate, and you're invested, and you're doing those things, well, then people see it. And as they see it, just like we're talking today, Brooke Anderson, who's the president of First Party Mortgage, she knew we were looking for a new president, and she told her friends, I'll go talk to Merle for 20 minutes, but then I'll be back in the office. I think she was here for 3.5 or 4 hours. And even though she may not have known it when she left the meeting that day, I said to myself, we're going to get married.
That's funny. That's hilarious. It just seems like it's such an art form, almost in like negotiation on a house is like an art form. And when I talk to one of my friends, he does a lot of acquisitions for like smaller businesses. When I talk to him, he just makes it sound like it's all cool. Everything's good. He comes in, he talks numbers with them, says, does this work or does this not work for you? Okay, well, this is what we could do for you. If it's not, just know that it's on the table. See you later. And I'm like, how do you just like learn like how to be so cool in these situations? If you have me, you want me to go into RealtyUSA and say, hey, I'm from Howard Hanna, I want to purchase RealtyUSA. My palms are sweating already talking about that. Well, I'm always like, oh God, no, I don't want to be, oh man, what do I do?
It's interesting. Some big companies that try to buy smaller companies start by threatening them. Well, we're going to continue to grow, and we're coming to your town, and we got more products and services, and you're going to be at a competitive disadvantage. Well, certainly no one wants to hear that.
Yeah.
So what I always tried to do is say, we all face disruptors. We all face regulatory problems. We all face threats. And, I look at it like the analogy of a boat. If I'm in a storm, the bigger the boat I'm on, the best chance I have for survival. And a lot of these small companies are like 25-foot sailboats, and we're a giant stable cruiser. And when you can convince those people to tie their boat to your boat and get on your big stable boat, I think they sleep a lot better at night. And the logic is there. So, I think everything you do, these are the pluses, these are the minuses, these are our values, these are our behaviors, and you see if you're compatible. And if you're compatible, you do a transaction. And if you're not compatible, you don't. I've been with people who they only want to compete on price. That if someone lists a house at 6, they'll list it at 5. Someone lists at 5, they'll list it at 4. Someone lists it, they'll list it at 3. I go, no, we're not compatible. We believe and providing exceptional service. And there's a cost to that service. So we want to be a Tiffany's. We want to be a Lord and Taylor, a Saks Fifth Avenue. We really don't want to be a discounter.
Yeah, right. Because you kind of get what you pay for, right? Like you got to set the tone off the bat too, and especially if you start negotiating, and you're starting to speak list price. It's like, or the commission price. It's like when somebody tries to knock down commission, it's like, yeah, but I mean, you pay for what you get for, right? Like I work really hard, and I really want to give you exceptional service. So it's like some things are gonna have to fall by the wayside if I start taking away stuff,
Right, and that's really what we promise people, that we will give them, no matter what we agree to on a professional fee, the highest return on investment and the best opportunity for them to maximize their opportunity.
Yeah, that's all throughout like your career. Have you had a mentor? Like even in this position, do you have somebody you like to call and bounce ideas off of to help you with acquisitions, or even I guess just better business?
I did open up a great network. There are a lot of, in the real estate business, there was a group called the Trendsetters. There's the Vision Group. And those are typically big brokers from around the country that get together for idea sharing, best practices. Because if I'm with somebody from Los Angeles and I'm with somebody from Chicago, I can tell them what I'm doing in Buffalo and Syracuse, and they aren't a threat to me and I'm not a threat to them.
Yeah.
So I think once you start joining these best practices group, and of course I've been in them for 20 years, the Hannas have been in them for years, you have a lot of friends around the country that you can say, what is your state doing about this? What are you doing with your agents regarding this? And again, a lot of the disruptors don't start in Buffalo, New York. They start in Los Angeles. They start in Atlanta, Chicago. So at least when we have friends in those marketplaces, we can say, what are you experiencing? What are you seeing? How are you countering them? How are you maintaining your value proposition?
Right. Yeah. And I always felt like it was good to have a mentor or somebody to bounce ideas off of, like that networking group. I think it's good to be able to be like, holy crap, I've never been in this position. Donna Jordan out of the Liverpool office, she's my mentor who I always like bounce ideas off of. And it's always good just to have like an outside opinion on different things it kind of helps me ground me in reality a little bit when a problem surfaces. It's like, all right, so this is the issue that I just ran into. Buyers getting cold feet, they're pulling from the deal. How would you handle XYZ? What's the best approach when I talk to this seller? Like, how should I talk to them? I always try to seek to her for advice,
Well, it's interesting. Let's say you're in a group of 20 people. You're not going to align with all 20 of them.
Yeah.
There are going to be people that are a little too dominant for you. They're going to be a little too submissive for you. So you're going to start to interact with people. Interestingly enough, one of my friends in the Trendsetters was Dick Thurman from William E. Wood, and he sold his company, William E. Wood, to the Hannas. So
wow.
I watched from afar for a couple of years, and then I was able to call Dick and, hey, 2 years since you sold, 3 years, what are you experiencing? How are your agents feel? What's happening? And, so just a lot of those types of relationships. And I think life is about choices. And, we see so many people make bad decisions because they didn't have any choices.
Yeah.
And so, I always tried to position myself in the company where we had lots of options, and then you can pick the option that's best for you and the group.
Yeah. And that's a good point too, that when I talk to sellers about listing their home, and we get to that price point in the conversation, it's like, it's nice being able to pick your buyer, but you can only pick your buyer if you have a really good price on the house, right? This way, you have 10 offers come through, you got options.
People calling me, come over and look at their house, and they say the bank's foreclosing in 2 weeks. And again, they made a bad decision. You don't wait till you're 2 weeks from crisis, because then any lowball offer that comes in, we're just going to have to take it, because otherwise the bank wins. And so again, it's really sort of, I would refer to it as strategic planning, that you're planning your options. As I said, I kind of knew in 2007 and 8 and 9, when we're in that recession, that when things got really strong and we were strong, then it would make sense to sell the company. So you wait till the pendulum in the marketplace swings to your position. And that, that happened in real estate in 2008 and 9. The strong people were all on the sidelines. They weren't selling the big stuff. They just said, we'll wait till the market comes back. And it's certainly back now, stronger than it's ever been.
Yeah, right. And, one of the things I get asked a lot right now is, do I think there's going to be another housing market crash? Do you think there's going to be another crash, or do you think it's just going to swing the other way? Because the market doesn't have to crash for the pendulum to change into more of a buyer's market.
Yeah, no, the pendulum swings. If you look at what happened during the crash that year in the country, they sold 7.2 million houses, and 30% of all the sales were non-primary residents. People were going to Florida, and they were buying condos to flip them. They were building houses to flip them. They were buying lots to flip them. And when things got tight, they couldn't afford to pay for 2 condos. They couldn't afford that. And that was also when the banks got really aggressive with no verification loans. You didn't have to have a job. You just had to say you had a job, and things weren't being checked. Well, needless to say, when that pendulum swings and now you're forced to liquidate something, that's what caused that crash. So we really don't have excessive lending policies. We really don't have the non-owner occupied investments that people were making. People were treating single family $1 million condos as investments. That's probably not your ideal investment. And so I think it's just everybody got sloppy, and we didn't get up one day and got crazy. We got crazier every year. So we got ourselves into 2007, and then it took us 2-3 years to get back out of it. And I don't see any big correction coming. I think the market's going to stay strong for the next couple of years.
I would agree with you.
Interest rates are silly. I mean, when you tell someone they can get a 2.8% mortgage, I remember when all of our rates were over 10%, and Ivor said, gosh, if they ever go under 10, we'll sell so many houses we won't know what to do. But we've been so spoiled by these interest rates. So that's what I would tell any buyer. You can make a little price mistake when you're financing at 2 and 3%.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, my friend Ben got like 2.7 on his loan this year. Like, that's crazy. You're borrowing money for 2.7. Like, that's insane. What a crazy interest rate.
Especially when you're buying it in for 15 and 30 years.
Yeah. Holy cow. That's like nothing. It just, I think people are really like, they think that there needs to be a crash for the pendulum to swing the other way. And I've been saying that same thing, where it's like, no, back then that people were just grabbing, like the banks were just saying, oh, you have a pulse? Okay, here's some money to go buy an investment property. Here you go. And then it kind of all just crashed. And we have so many strict rules. Like, I have one of my buyers called me yesterday because he was like, why does the bank need to verify the check cleared on my account? I could show my bank statement, yada, yada, yada. I go, well, the reverse is them never checking, and there being issues all over the place. So if they need to ask, there's probably some hiccups.
Yeah, no, I had an appraiser friend who, dear friend, did a lot of commercial appraisal work for me. And same thing with his son, but he sent me the front of the check. I see that I need the back of the check. And he said, you question my integrity. And I said, the bank doesn't know you from Adam. They need to see the back of the check. And it, to your point, they're verifying, and the world we live in when things are verified is a better world.
Yeah. And I took like an NAR course too a couple of weeks ago. That was it's called the housing crisis in America, or something to that extent. And they were talking about why this market had gotten so cinched up. And one thing that I never considered was, after the housing market crash of like 2008, 2009, right? We stopped new construction. Like, new construction was not was perfectly keeping up with demand. And then that hit, and nobody wanted to build for like 3-4 years. And now it's like, you can't even catch up. Like, these houses are getting sold before they're even finished right now, because there was that like 4-year gap where it used to be this many houses getting built every year to now like this, like it was substantial difference after the crash.
Yeah, and the spread between new construction prices and resales,
Yeah.
we're seeing a spread there because plywood went crazy, construction prices went crazy. COVID compounded with supply chain issues
Yeah.
where, they can't, your appliance maker can't get the components to make your appliance. So you're building your house and it's sitting there and prices are going up, so
Right.
they're crazy times. But
Yeah.
I do think there still will be good stability in the market for, as I said, a couple of years.
Yeah, I think it'll level out, and I just don't think it's gonna take a crash for it to swing the other way. I think the amount of houses needs to catch up. We need more affordable, like $200,000 houses. That's seems to be a lot of first time buyers. Price ranges like the 150, 200, give or take. We just need more of those houses available. That seems to be the driving factor right now, at least in my market.
Yeah, I have a home down in Florida on Casey Key. And on Casey Key last year at this time, there were 50 houses for sale. There's probably a half a dozen now. And I think
Wow.
one of the things that happened is a lot of baby boomers through this whole COVID realized their own mortality. They figured that last suit they need doesn't need any pockets. So they
Yeah.
better spend some of that money and enjoy their life now. So we really
Right.
see that a lot of boomers buying what they want when they
Right.
want it so they can enjoy it.
Right. Do your whole career when you were starting in sales to now, what do you think has had the biggest impact on the real estate environment? I feel like the easy one to say, a lot of people would say would be internet, right? That probably had the biggest impact because that changed everything, right?
Well, funny story. Okay. Uh, you think of the medical profession. All the doctors that I have talked to can't stand the internet because their patients get on the internet and they
Oh,
self-diagnose.
I know.
Uh, you know, I know you're into martial arts, and I'm a marathoner and runner and
Nice.
cyclist, and uh,
You're a marathoner?
yeah, I've done 35,
What?
and
When was the last time you did a marathon?
4 years ago.
Wow, man, that's crazy. That's crazy. How old were you then when you did that? How old did you say you were earlier?
65.
Wow, dude, that's impressive.
Well, it's funny. Well, I was out training one winter, and we were out for an 18 miler, and I got frostbite, and I didn't know it was frostbite, so I got black and blue marks on
Oh,
the inside of both my thighs when I got into the headwind, with wet tights. But
yeah,
anyway, I went to the internet and I found out what would I have that would cause black and blue marks on my thigh. Well,
yeah,
leukemia causes black and
yeah,
blue marks.
right.
I went to my doctor. He said, "Well, you could have it, but for me to biopsy it, I'm going to have to dig up your thigh pretty good, and let's wait for a couple weeks." And a couple weeks later, I bumped into my friend. He had the same problem, and I realized I had frostbite, not leukemia. But it really speaks to the internet
Yeah,
because these customers get on and they read about real estate, and they have no idea what they're reading. So I
yeah,
think they need us more than ever to interpret the data that
yeah,
they have access to. So we certainly have empowered the consumer, and they're going to come well informed with many questions. But I think if we, in our value proposition, let them know we're just going to help them get more and more educated so they can make good decisions, then they'll see the value we contribute.
that's a great way to put it. Because I'm finding like my niche a lot is first time home buyers, usually
Uh-huh.
like friends from high school, and my generation very well read in the sense of the internet. Like I have a lot of people who already know what an appraisal is, but they don't know exactly how the process works from A to B. And I'm it's so nice to hear though, like that they like, hey, we did our research. We know that when you work with a buyer's agent, you want to sign a buyer agency agreement because you don't want me to work with other. I just want you to know I'll be happy to sign it, and I really want to work with you. And I'm like, man, I remember this being like a really tough conversation in my first course where I was like, you better make sure they sign it. And a lot of people are going to put up that they don't want to sign an agreement with you, and yada yada yada. And here these people are already coming educated on what the form is, what it means, what duties I then owe to them. I'm like, I'm blown away at some of how these people have just are coming to these buyer presentations so prepared already. Like half my presentation's already done.
Well, there's another interesting logic. that goes there. So let's think of any commodity. Forget about real estate. Let's think about a stock, and you're going to go into your first time buyer, and you go in and you buy a stock. Let's say it's an iron ore company or something like that, and you invest 50,000. Well, all of a sudden, iron prices drop. It costs more to get it out of the ground, and they just turned their 50,000 into 20,000.
Right.
If they'd been in the stock market for 20 years buying stock, and they had a lot of winners, then they had a loser, it wouldn't matter because they've got the inflated dollars. But when you're a first-time home buyer, you're buying that commodity for the first time. And if you make a mistake and you overpay by 30 or 40,000, then you're transferred, you go through a matrimony, you need to liquidate, you'll be in crisis. So needless to say, when someone's on their 10th house, their other house was paid for, they're cash buyers, they're in a great position. So it's probably more important than anybody in their lifetime of buying make the right decision the first time.
Yeah. And you said people are overpaying too, or they get in where they have to overpay in this market. It's tough. Like when I do my buyer presentation, I'm like, depending on the house and depending on what you're looking for, might mean that we have to overbid a lot. And people are like, all right, I could do 10 grand. Well, we're up against 20 offers on this one, so I don't know if 10 grand is going to do it. And it's like this like dance. It's like this intricate dance that I have to do where it's like I'm educating them ahead of time, so when the moment comes that they don't just think that I'm just trying to go after, a higher commission. No, you guys love this house and you generally want to be in it. Here's the reality. And remember when we talked 3 months ago, that's what I said could end up happening, rather than springing on it.
But I think the nice thing is that you can take data and you can show them that other people have been forced to make similar decisions. Yeah. And what we're now looking at is a new market versus, and again, I tell people, if you stay rational and not emotional, sometimes people, their need to win is so great that they lose, they're not that they're not objective about it. And so I think that balance of, we can't let our fear of loss be so great that we make bad business decisions. And I think that's where we can come back in and show them some current comparables on competing houses where everybody else had to go and pay $20,000 more. Well, now that becomes the market, and you can prove to him that be a reasonable decision to go over the asking price.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. And it seems to be like, to me, it's how you set them up ahead of time. Because if I spur that on them in the moment, just as we're about to type the offer, then it's like, what do you mean? I mean, I was never prepped for this ahead of time, that I was going to have to overbid 20 grand on a house.
Well, I couldn't agree more. It's like the doctor. He tells you you're going to feel a pinch. Every time a doctor has told me that, it hurts like hell, but I'm waiting for it. And we're the same way. If we can tell them there's going to feel a pinch, they'll be ready when they experience the pinch.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. What do you think there is a tool that's most underutilized by agents?
Yeah, I would say it's database management. And when you look at our industry, where it was 20 years ago, and the way you touched base with your clients is you sent them flower seeds in the spring, you sent them forget-me-nots, and then you told them in the spring to spring ahead, turn your clock ahead. And in the fall, I said, we're talking to doctors, lawyers, bright people. They know now to turn their clock ahead, and their computer probably does it. So I think now we've got to touch that database. And instead of sending them recipes and pumpkins and nonsense that the industry did for years, we now have to give them data about, the largest investment many of them will own in their lifetime, and how it's performing. I really believe we need to reach out to customers and talk to them about their entire real estate portfolio. I mean, I think there are many of our buyers that would love a summer home, We've got to start talking to them about the quality of life and what a summer home would do. We need to talk to them about real estate as a potential investment compared to stocks and equities. Talk to them, all these types of things, and treat it like a robust stock portfolio. And, like I own a great deal of real estate. During the recession, I was in wonderful shape because I had excellent hard assets with equity. So the banks were very comfortable giving me money to keep investing in my business.
Right.
Everybody that owns real estate is in that same position. And I'd have never seen anybody on their deathbed that says, I wish I didn't own so much real estate.
Right.
Because it's something that you can leave to your family, you can leave to your estate. It's manageable, it appreciates, you can leverage it. So I think the agents have to do a better job of reaching out probably every 30 to 60 days with very strong information that people want to know and read, so they feel empowered in owning real estate.
Yeah. I remember going to the HannaCon in Pittsburgh, which was 2 years ago, 2019.
Yep.
And I think it was Jared James that said, if you're not building your content file today, you are losing the race for tomorrow. It was something very similar to that. I might have butchered it a little bit.
No doubt about it. And again, you have to decide, again, based on the diversity of your database, what they need to know.
Yeah.
Because again, they're seeing stuff, and that's how Zillow became credible. Zillow was taking houses and saying that, you paid $350 and now your house is worth $390 and it went up $4,000 last month. Well, they're credible because these people are going, seeing numbers they like. We as an industry have to make sure we're sharing that data with them so that we're the trusted source and not some computer logarithm that can't make the right adjustments.
Yeah, that's what you just gave me an idea. I feel like you did like a monthly, you could do Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitch is another one. You could do a monthly breakdown of like local numbers of like, what's the average day on market for Onondaga County? What's the average price point? Where, I mean, you have the tools in the MLS. Why not just use it to your convenience? Where I can literally click 3 buttons and I have the average sale price for Onondaga County.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges is, and this is, you have to be artful to do this.
Right. Is
the market doesn't change that much in 30 days. So we have to make sure we don't send them too much so that they don't read our emails, because it's just the monthly update that looks just like the month before, just like the month before.
Yeah.
So, I think we really have to say, so I'm probably the opinion you probably want to touch them every 60 to 90 days, but with exceptional content, and split those messages up a little bit.
Yeah, right. I think people nowadays are looking for more things of value rather than a postcard that says you sold the house next door. Exactly. Like they want to know what does this neighborhood look like? Was that a good sale? Was that a bad sale? Was that average? What did it sell for over a list price? Like, I think people are salacious for more information, especially in this day and age of content, which is just such a weird word.
Well, the other thing is, just picture being home some Friday afternoon and you get a call from your doctor, and your doctor says, Cory, I've been thinking about you, and I would like to get together at your earliest convenience to talk about your health. So I say, okay,
Yeah.
And I think if we start to reach out to people with a similar message, I've been thinking about you and your family. I've been thinking about your real estate portfolio. I think it is important that we get together, because what tends to happen, the average person might buy every 5 to 7 years, 8 years, whatever, 10 years, whatever the number is. We should meet with them face to face more regularly and find out what their hopes, dreams, conditions are, And a good example, anybody that's looking for their dream house with this interest rate environment and the strong resale market we're in, now may be the time where what most sellers do is they look at family situations. Well, we'll wait till Johnny's out of high school. We'll wait till Mary's in college. We wait till someone's, and they miss the market because they were they were looking for an excuse not to go through the discomfort of moving.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, no, now's the time, definitely, especially if you're looking for a dream home,
Right.
And speaking of the future, what do you think the real estate environment is going to look like in the next, we'll say 20 years?
Well, the one thing we didn't talk about is our government policies and tax policies. In New York State with the SALT tax, with a cap on your New York State and real estate taxes, you can only do a combined $10,000. The average person in New York State's paying $10,000, which makes their real estate taxes non-deductible anymore. So as you look at these costs of all the markets we're in and these house prices going up, we're seeing more and more $25,000, $30,000 taxes. People didn't mind paying $25,000 and $30,000 taxes when their house was appreciating, and two, when it was deductible. And if they were in the 50% tax bracket, the government was paying half of their $25,000 tax bill. So as these, as we keep saying, tax people more, give them fewer deductions, that can have a real legitimate effect on a commodity as big as the residential real estate market.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, and that could definitely play a big part in how much real estate's being sold.
Yeah, I mean, I look at my house. I have a summer home in a house in Florida. 4 or 5 years ago, I could just deduct my real estate taxes. Now I can't deduct my real estate taxes because I'm capped out. Yeah. So, as those taxes get higher and higher, and now I say to myself, well, gosh, I'm going to lose a $50,000 deduction.
Yeah,
that's pretty significant.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's going to hit your bottom line for sure.
Yeah.
I would say, what piece of advice would you give a new agent? And then part two to the question is a seasoned agent.
I don't think it changes.
Okay, that's fair.
I mean, I think I guess I will change it for you.
Okay, cool.
The worst thing that a new agent could ever say to themselves or anyone is, I'm going to try real estate. Because if you say, I'm going to try real estate, it's a hard business.
Yeah.
And when you get a few lumps, you're going to quit. So what I want new agents to say, I am committed to go through all the pain and discomfort that I need to succeed in this business. But in both circumstances, it's personal responsibility. If someone doesn't make it in our company, nothing to do with Howard Hanna. Nothing to do with, it's just they didn't do the things they needed to do on a daily basis to realize the success. And one thing I tell new agents all the time, I see them, they just keep reading and learning and reading and learning and reading and learning. And I say, I don't see you with any customers. And they go, well, I'm not ready yet. And I go, well, what aren't you ready for? And they go, well, I don't know the answers to all the questions. And I say, well, what questions? They go, I don't know. They haven't asked them. So you have to get face to face with buyers and sellers that need to buy and sell now. And then you don't need all the answers. I became very comfortable with saying, I don't know. But one of the great things about being in an organization like Hanna, let me get you the answer and I'll get back to you. So I think it's really just that personal responsibility. And then the last thing, probably, as I think about life, I know you're involved with martial arts.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're doing that for fitness. I'm sure you're doing it for balance. I'm sure, when people get out of balance and they don't spend enough time on diet, health and well-being, family, spiritual needs, it's almost impossible for them to succeed in business. So I'm a real philosopher of you need balance. That's why I've been running for 40 or 50 years and, riding bikes and doing, one of my hobbies for 16 years, I raced motorcycles. So
What?
doing things that get you very engaged, but also take you away from your day-to-day pressures of your business.
Yeah, I think that during quarantine was probably the biggest thing that I learned, was how much that stuff affects my mental state. Like if you would have asked me when I was 19 why I was doing martial arts, it was because I wanted to do a kickboxing fight. I wanted to compete. I wanted to be in the ring and do X, Y, and Z. And then I had my second fight where I ate a cross from the guy, and he hit me so hard it like snapped me in reality, where I was like, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. Why am I getting head trauma right now? This is not what I want. So it's like my mind has shifted where it's to now martial arts for me is just like this point where I can just shut off everything going on. I can focus on what's in front of me. I get a great workout in. I get to spend time with a lot of people that I genuinely care about. And when I don't get to do that stuff, I'm a different person. I'm a completely different person.
Well, the other thing that everyone will find out is, like, I can remember one year selling 8 houses to guys from my running club.
Yeah.
As you network, when you have shared values, the people want to do business with people who have shared values. So, if you're in the martial arts community, you'll sell a lot of houses to people in the martial art because they respect your discipline. Mm-hmm. They respect that value. Right. And so I think I want people, and again, when I talk about spiritual, if you're in the community and you're going to church, you're going to sell people from your church. If you're in martial art, you're going to sell people. That's how all these agents are so successful. They go out into the community with people with shared values, and they provide great products and services to them.
Yeah, right. And those are the kind of people that will always want to do business with you, no matter what company you're at and whatever name you're under. The dudes from the Runners Club, they didn't care if you were RealtyUSA or Gallinger. They cared because hey, Merle just sold me my house. How cool is that?
Well, not only that, but that poor guy was stuck with me for an hour and a half. I could be pretty persuasive in an hour and a half.
That's right.
So you've got this great opportunity where if I were cold calling, I might capture somebody on the phone for 30, 40 seconds.
Right.
So, if I'm running or playing golf with them, now I've got 4 hours. Now I've got an hour, and I can at least share some fact benefits about buying real estate.
Right. Man, that was cool. Merle, I feel like I learned so much in this conversation. I think maybe the next podcast we talk about you racing bikes, because that sounds freaking awesome.
Well, that could just be attributable to low IQ.
Come on, you can't say that come on, look at where you're at now. I don't think somebody with low IQ would be in the position that you're in. Come on.
Well, we can talk about my psychological profile. One thing I will say is I tend to be competitive. So when you are competing, you want to realize some success.
Yeah, I think I am definitely a little bit of a gym class hero. For sure. When I was in gym, I was always the tryhard. I was always trying to be. I'm so competitive in nature. You know what I mean? That's just who I am in person. But what do you
realize that you competing against you?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, thank you for the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. This was so great, dude. I thank you so much for taking an hour out of your day to talk to me. It was really great getting to know you a little bit more.
Well, I figure you owe me big time now, so I'll collect later.
Yeah. I know I'm waiting for the phone call. Hey, can you drive out to Albany?
Super. Cory, thank you so much.
Thank you, Merle. I appreciate your time.
Have a great day.